Hello students, this is Mrs. Sonal Patil. In our previous class, we have already completed the chapter Reproductive Health. Today, we will begin with the chapter 6 Molecular Basis of Inheritance. The weightage for this chapter is of 10 marks. Questions carrying 1 mark, 2 mark or 3 marks or 5 marks may be asked from this particular chapter. In this chapter, we will study about the DNA, the search for genetic material, RNA world, replication, transcription, genetic code, translation, regulation of gene expression, Human Genome Project, and DNA fingerprinting. In the chapter 5, you will learn the inheritance patterns and the genetic basis of those patterns. At the time of Mendel, the nature of those factors regulating the pattern of inheritance was not clear. Over the next 100 years, the nature of putative genetic material was investigated, culminating in the realization that DNA, that is deoxyribonucleic acid, is the genetic material, at least for the majority of organisms. Last year, you have learnt that nucleic acids are the polymers of nucleotides. Nucleic acids are building blocks of genetic material. These are long polymers of nucleotides. Genetic material is that substance which not only controls the formation and expression of traits in an organisms but replicate and pass from one generation to next. DNA and RNA, DNA that is nothing but deoxyribonucleic acid, and RNA that is ribonucleic acid they're nothing but they're the two types of nucleic acids which are found in the living systems. RNA is the main genetic material in retroviruses. Coming to this DNA. DNA is a long polymer of deoxyribonucleotides. The length of DNA is usually defined as number of nucleotides present in it, or nothing but a pair of nucleotide it is referred to as a base pair. This is the characteristic of an organism. For example, a bacteriophage. Bacteriophage is nothing but the viruses which are infecting the bacteria are called as bacteriophage, has 5386 nucleotides. Bacteriophage lambda has 48,502 base pairs. Escherichia coli, that is E. coli, has 4.6 into 106 base pair, and haploid content of human DNA is 3.3 into 109 base pair. So remember, DNA, the length of the DNA is defined as a number of nucleotides present in it. A nucleotide has three components: a nitrogenous base, a pentose sugar, ribose in case of RNA, and deoxyribose for DNA, and a phosphate group. So nucleotide is a combination of nitrogenous base, pentose sugar, and the phosphate group. So these are the three components present in the nucleotide. There are two types of nitrogenous bases: purines, which are adenine and guanine, and pyrimidines, which are cytosine, uracil, and thymine. Cytosine is common for both DNA and RNA, whereas thymine is present in DNA and uracil is present in RNA. So instead of thymine, uracil is present in the RNA. That is the difference. So remember, two types of nitrogenous bases are present: purines and pyrimidines, of which purines are adenine and guanine. Pyrimidines are cytosine, uracil, and thymine. So DNA is having thymine, whereas RNA is having, in place of thymine, it is having uracil. A nitrogenous base is linked to the pentose sugar through glycosidic linkage to form a nucleoside, such as adenosine or deoxyadenosine, guanosine or deoxyguanosine, cytidine or deoxycytidine, and uridine or thymidine, that is, or deoxythymidine. thymidine. So nucleotide and nucleoside, the concept must be clear for you all. Nucleoside is a combination of nitrogenous base, pentose sugar and a phosphate group forms nucleotide, whereas nucleoside is nothing but nitrogenous base with the pentose sugar is called as nucleoside. So nucleoside is nothing but nitrogenous base plus pentose sugar is called as nucleoside, whereas nitrogenous base, pentose sugar and the phosphate group forms the nucleotide. When a phosphate group is linked to 5' OH of nucleoside through phosphoester linkage, a corresponding nucleotide is formed. Two nucleotides are linked through 3' 5' phosphodiester linkage to form a dinucleotide. More nucleotides can be joined in such a manner to form a polynucleotide chain. A polymer thus formed has at one end a free phosphate moiety. So here you can see that a nucleotide. So nucleotide is nothing but it is a combination of nitrogenous base, pentose sugar and the phosphate group. So this is a nucleotide which is linked to the another nucleotide by a phosphodiester bond. And in this manner, more nucleotides are joined together to form a polynucleotide chain. So here also the phosphoester bond is being shown between the phosphate group and the pentose sugar. 5' end of ribose sugar, which is referred to as 5' end of the polynucleotide chain. Similarly, at the other end of the polymer, the ribose has a free 3' OH group, which is referred to as 3' end of the polynucleotide chain. The backbone in a polynucleotide chain is formed due to sugar and phosphates. The nitrogenous bases are linked together to sugar moiety project. There's nothing but the nitrogenous bases linked to sugar moiety project from the backbone. So remember, backbone is made up of sugar and phosphate, and the nitrogenous bases are projecting inside. That's nothing but they're forming, sugar and phosphate are forming the backbone of the molecule. In RNA, every nucleotide residue has an additional OH group present at 2' position in the ribose. Also, in the RNA, uracil is found at the place of thymine. DNA as an acidic substance present in the nucleus was first identified by Friedrich Mischer in 1869. He named it as nuclein. However, due to technical limitation in isolating such a long polymer intact, the elucidation of structure of DNA remained elusive for a very long period of time. It was only in 1953 that James Watson and Francis Crick, based on the X-ray diffraction data produced by Maurice Wilkins and Rosalind Franklin, proposed a very simple but famous double helix model for the structure of DNA. One of the hallmarks of their proposition was base pairing between the two strands of polynucleotide chains. However, this proposition was also based on the observation of Erwin Chargaff that for a double-stranded DNA, the ratios between adenine and thymine and guanine and cytosine are constant and equal ones. The base pairing confers a very unique property to the polynucleotide chains. They are said to be complementary to each other, and therefore, if the sequence of bases in one strand is known, then the sequence in another strand can be predicted. So base pairing is nothing but the nitrogenous bases are paired in this manner. They are paired. Adenine always pairs with the thymine. Cytosine always pairs with the guanine. So these are called as complementary base pairing is been followed in the DNA molecule. Also, if each strand from a DNA acts as a template for the synthesis of new strand, the two double-stranded DNA thus produced would be identical to the parental DNA molecule. Because of this, the genetic implications of the structure of DNA becomes very clear. So here is been told that if one strand of DNA is been known, the another strand can be found out. That is been the base pairing confers a very unique property to the polynuclear chain. They are said to be complementary to each other, and therefore if the sequence of bases in one strand are known, then the sequence in the another strand can be predicted by knowing this complementary base pairing. That is adenine uh, pairs with the thymine, and cytosine pairs with the guanine, or guanine pairs with the cytosine. Coming to the features of three-dimensional double helical structure of DNA. DNA is composed of two strands wound around each other to form a double helix with base inside and sugar phosphate backbone on outside. So as I told you, sugar phosphate backbone is present outside and base are present in the they are present inside. Two DNA strands are organized in anti-parallel and complementary arrangement. That is, two strands run in opposite direction or opposite orientation. If one is running from 5 prime to 3 prime, the other runs from 3 prime to 5 prime, and because of which they are called as anti-parallel. The bases of two strands form hydrogen bond with each other. Adenine pairs with thymine with the two hydrogen bonds, and guanine pairs with, sorry, the spelling mistake is there over here, it pairs with cytosine with 3 hydrogen bonds. So adenine pairs with thymine with a double bond, guanine pairs with cytosine with a triple bond. It is called as complementary base pairing that makes sequencing possible if template strand sequence is known. The helix is generally right-handed, that is it run clockwise looking along the helix axis. The pitch of the helix is 3.4 nanometer, and there are about 10 base pairs in each turn. So each turn is having about 10 base pairs. Distance between two base pair in helix is equal to 0.34 nanometer. Diameter of helix is 20 Armstrong. This is the structure of the DNA double helix model. So you please practice the diagram. The diagram will be maybe asked in the exam. The structure of DNA will be asked. So please practice the diagram along with the description. So here they have shown you about the sugar phosphate backbone, nitrogenous bases. It is having a major groove, minor groove. So please practice the diagram. One base pair stacks one another in the staircase arrangement that causes structural stability to helical structure. So it appears like a ladder or staircase which is arranged in the spiral or helical manner. Erwin Chargaff found that purine and pyrimidine content of DNA are equal. According to Chargaff, the percentage of adenine is equal to the thymine, and the percentage of guanine is equal to the percentage of cytosine. Very important. The percentage of adenine plus guanine equals to 50%, and the percentage of thymine to plus cytosine equals to 50%. These relationships are called Chargaff's rule. Very important. So this is about the structure of the DNA. The proposition of a double helix structure of DNA and its simplicity in explaining the genetic implication became revolutionary. Francis Crick proposed the central dogma in molecular biology, which states that the genetic information flows from DNA to RNA and from RNA to the protein. So very important is this central dogma, may be asked in the exam, which states that the genetic information flows from DNA to RNA and from RNA to the protein. In some viruses, the flow of information is in reverse direction, that is from RNA to DNA. So diagrammatically it has been shown here. DNA undergoes transcription to form RNA. RNA undergoes translation to form protein. So this is called as a central dogma in molecular biology. Coming to the packaging of DNA helix, it is again an important question to be asked in the exam. Taken the distance between the two consecutive base pairs as 0.34 nanometer, if the length of the DNA double helix in a typical mammalian cell is calculated, it comes out to be approximately 2.2 meters. So such a length is there of the DNA molecule, a length that is far greater than the dimension of the typical nucleus, and hence packaging of the DNA helix has been done. In prokaryotes such as E. coli, though they do not have a defined nucleus, the DNA is not scattered throughout the cell. DNA, being negatively charged, is held with some proteins that have positive charges in a region termed as nucleotide. So DNA is not scattered throughout the cell in the prokaryotes. It is held with the proteins and it is termed as nucleoid. The DNA in a nucleotide is organized in large loops held by proteins. So this is occurring in the prokaryotes, but it is not the case in the eukaryotes. In eukaryotes, this organization is much more complex. There is a set of positively charged basic proteins called histones. So histones proteins are present. A protein acquires charge depending upon the abundance of amino acid residues with charged side chains. Histones are rich in the basic amino acid residues, lysines and arginines. So they are rich in the basic amino acid residues, that is lysines and arginines. Both the amino acid residues carry positive charges in their side chains. Histones are organized to form a unit of 8 molecules called histone octamer. So histones are forming a combination of 8 molecules which is called as histone octamer, just shown over here. So histone octamer has been formed. The negatively charged DNA is wrapped around the positively charged histone octamer to form a structure called nucleosome. So you can see here DNA is coiled along the histone octamer, okay, and it is forming what is called as a nucleosome. A typical nucleosome contains 200 base pairs of DNA helix. Nucleosomes constitute the repeating unit of a structure in a nucleus called chromatin, which is a thread-like stained bodies seen in the nucleus. So in eukaryotes, organization is more complex. It is having basic proteins called as histones, and these histones are rich in amino acid residues, that is lysines and arginines, okay, and these histones are organized in the form of combination of, it is a combination of 8 molecules called as histone octamer, okay, and the DNA is wrapped around these octamer to form nucleosome. The nucleosomes in chromatin are seen as beads on string. So they will appear like as if they are like beads which are arranged on the string. So they appear beads on string structure when viewed under electron microscope. The beads on string structure in chromatin is packaged to form chromatin fibers that are further coiled and condensed at metaphase stage of cell division to form chromosomes. So they get condensed to form chromosomes. The packaging of chromatin at higher level requires additional set of proteins that collectively are referred to as non-histone chromosomal proteins. In a typical nucleus, some regions of chromatin are loosely packed. They will take light stain, are referred as euchromatin, and the chromatin that is more densely packed and which will take dark stain are called as heterochromatin. So there are two regions present, euchromatin which is staining lightly and there is heterochromatin which stains darkly. Euchromatin is said to be transcriptionally active chromatin, whereas heterochromatin is inactive. So this is about the packaging of the DNA helix. Again, an important question. So today we will stop here, and in the next class we will begin with the next part of the chapter. Thank you.